So sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. So Jen, we were talking about when to start your campaign, and I think there are two ways of approaching it. One is with having a set kind of campaign that happens, basically tracing backwards from when the day that your space opens to say, okay, once you know for sure it's going to be, September 1st, then we, come back 2 months and we say it's, okay, July 1st to September 1st or whatever it is your campaign time. And then any time before that is kind of pre-campaign momentum building. So you're getting people ready for when the campaign launches, that it's like, okay, now it's time to put your money down. That's one school of thought. The other school of thought that I'm considering is just going for it, basically not being shy. I think the fact that you have a lease signed and you're doing construction is the thing that you needed to do that will show people that this is for real, because you're committed. And I think you need other people to commit too. And so the more that you're able to get people to commit sooner, the better. Even if it's a small number, it makes it easier to build some momentum for the the subsequent number of people. Can you remind us how many square feet you're looking at?
6,000.
6,000. Okay. So for a space of that size, you're going to need a fair number of people to be members, right? Do we have a target for like how many members you're going to kind of aim for to be happy?
I guess it depends on what my occupancy is like. I can fit at a given time, let's say 55 people comfortably. Hopefully not everyone is going to come every single day, and I'll be able to double or even quadruple that. So my sense is that you don't really know how many members you have until you kind of get a sense for the flow of your space, right?
That is true. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking in terms of, for our planning purposes, that if you've got that many seats, that's analogous to the space that I had. And, when we were bursting at the seams, we had like 120 members. And of course our model is going to be different from yours, but I think that should give you a starting point. So the point is that in order to get like a full capacity of people on board, we need to be able to make sure that you've got different phases of people who are getting involved, and working backwards, like the last group of people to show up to fill your space up are going to be people who read about this in an article in the newspaper or heard about it from a friend after you've been open for a little while. And they're kind of like on the other end of the bell curve, like they're kind of the late adopters, right? And those are going to be your last like 20 or 30 members that fill in. And then working backwards from that, there's kind of the people who got excited about it initially, like around the time when it was launching, when it was something that they got excited about because they attended an event or they read about it or whatever it was, and they were kind of really ready for it. And that probably will be kind of the bulk of your membership, is like people who join in the vicinity of launch. And then there's kind of the early adopters, who are the people who are going to join as part of your pre-launch campaign, which is what we're talking about. But what I'm thinking is that there is a sweet spot right in front of that, which is, I guess we could call them the champions or the super members, the people who would commit to doing this even before there's a formal campaign for it. And I'm thinking that now what might be good to do is to identify who those people are, who are ready to break out the checkbooks before you even have the membership pre-launch campaign ready. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So I'm thinking about, in that very, very front end, who are the 5 or 10 people who you could just close the deal over a conversation, right? And then let's focus on getting those people locked in first, because then the subsequent conversations you have with the next group are, I've already got 5 amazing people on board, and those 5 amazing people are now out evangelizing this as well. Because when you've got somebody who's in that, front 5 or front 10, who's committed, and now they're going out and saying, I've already put down a deposit on this thing, I'm so excited for it to happen, you should come join. That makes, like, that makes your job a lot easier that you've got those agents out there speaking on your behalf. So I would say, regardless of the timeline, let's definitely start identifying and locking in those people. And yeah, and then you could test out the full campaign on them as well.
Should I do a lower price for these super champions?
So the way that I like to play with price and pre-launch is, and for what it's worth, Christy, even though you've opened, you can incorporate a lot of this into what you're doing anyway. I'm assuming, yeah, you kind of already thought the same. So the way that I would like to see pre-launch stuff happen is that benefits to becoming a member before it launches might bring some minimal price relief, like very small, like 5%, something like that. But bring other kind of less financial benefits. So maybe you get your name on the wall, maybe you get some bonus swag, maybe you get recognized at the launch party, you get your name on the website, the logo of your company on the website, things that don't cost you money. But the way that they could then save money in a way that benefits you is by prepaying for membership. And this is why I don't want to give that away just for someone who signs up, because we want to motivate people to give you cash. And if you launch a pre-launch prepayment campaign, you can offer more generous discounts to someone who's willing to pay you upfront for 3, 6, or 12 months of membership. And so you can be increasingly generous the more someone's willing to pay upfront. Right now, if someone's willing to give you cash for 6 months worth of membership today or 12 months, awesome. I'll give them 10, 12% off that.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have a spreadsheet for that as well. That has the math. I think that has the math calculated for you on that.
What's that called?
I think it would be pre-launch campaign something. I'll try to look it up.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, so generally, regardless of how we describe the particular pre-launch campaign and the names of it and everything, at this point, it's kind of a hectic time for you because you have to deal with the build out and the finances and all the other stuff that's going on. But it's also a time when recruiting membership is just so super important. And I honestly, I think it kind of supersedes a lot of the other things just because it helps you to build capacity. So if you're able to find more people who are excited, not just to be customers, but to be collaborators on this project with you, that's going to give you more boots on the ground, more people to help make your job easier. And one of the things that I emphasize, and gosh, one day I'm going to turn this into a formal process, I just don't have the right document for it yet, is that we're not just recruiting for members, we're recruiting for all these other pieces that we need. And that includes service providers, cross promoters, and financiers. So service providers is another thing to be looking out for right now, since you're about to be spending a bunch of money doing a bunch of construction stuff, right? You're looking for who can get you furniture, who can get you IT support services, who can help you with legal services, who can help you with, lighting, right? Whatever it is, you're building a little village, and it's gonna require a village of people to support it. And so the thing that we want to do is create space for that to fill. And just to tell you a quick story around that. So when I was building New York City the first time, when it was a sublet, and I had like no experience, no money, very little money, I had done a fair bit of networking in the communities, and there was a guy who ran like a local like mini ISP. I still don't quite understand how it worked, but he like worked with other providers to like offer up his services on top of theirs or whatever. And he was like a local IT support service firm. And he was a nice guy and super techie, nerdy dude. And he offered to donate IT support for our space. He and his team actually came in, set up, wired our whole space, put Ethernet drops, put up the Wi-Fi, all that stuff, and donated network hardware to us, with
Nice.
giant stickers on the network hardware with the name of his company, because he's a smart businessman and he knows that I was about to be running a space that would house dozens and dozens and hundreds of businesses, small businesses in the area that would be growing, and he wanted his brand and his name to be in front of those growing businesses. So it was a generous thing for him to do, and it was also smart business for him to do, and he was more than happy to do it. So PS, that saved me a shitload of work and money, right? Like that saved me a lot of time and energy. And so because IT is expensive, it's expensive to buy the hardware, it's expensive time and energy wise if you're going to try to figure out how to set it up, or it's expensive money wise to pay someone else how to do it. And even if you do all those things, it could still be a nightmare, right? Like I can't, I mean, it really, you could have a whole setup and then it still runs into all kinds of problems. And everybody's different. We've worked with a bunch of different IT guys over the years. Every one of them had a completely different approach to it. And every one of them thought that the previous guy was a moron, you know, like it was just, they all have their own perspective on it. But it's really important that that be accounted for, because like it could be you, but it shouldn't be you, right? It should be someone else's baby. And it's going to be weird. It's going to be annoying in one way or another, but like, we need to give you as much opportunity as possible to be the leader of your operation, working on the business versus working in the business. You're going to be doing a lot of working in the business, but if you do too much working in the business, then you fail to work on the businesses, and that's when you risk losing it, is really what ends up happening. So what we're doing in this pre-launch period is, sure, maybe you save the formal campaign for a moment when it really feels right. But in the meantime, let's think about what the informal campaign is to really start bringing those people on board. I realized I'm ranting now, so maybe I'll pause just to see if I'm still on track with you here.
No, that's great. It's interesting what you said about businesses. I think about this a lot. And I was considered an influencer, even though like this was in the early-ish days of bloggers and I didn't have like a huge following or anything, but yeah, people were like throwing new product at me. And I'm just trying to think of a way that I can like tap in that again and reach out to all these PR folks that I say and that I know and say, hey, I'm doing this new thing. It's how we normally think of as an influencer campaign, but it should be. And here are all the reasons why. I do know if there's any other co-working space operators doing that. And it might just be unique to my background as a blogger.
Yeah, no, that's a great perspective to have, and I think it is apt. And it's something, frankly, it's one of the things that I'm very unsatisfied about regarding the global co-working movement's messaging and positioning, is that we really are not telling the story of the impact that we are having collectively as a movement. Each of these spaces, even one small space, you know, over the course of its lifetime, directly, just the number of people who are members of the space, you've got hundreds of small businesses that are directly affected, millions of dollars of economic impact generated, jobs created, right? New businesses created, businesses expanded. And those are the ones directly affected. Indirectly affected, there's that much more growth. People who come to an event at your space. Somebody, you know, could come to a WordPress meetup, learn an important concept about how to be a better WordPress developer, meet somebody who hires them for their small business, and that small business ends up getting bigger because they met that person at the WordPress meetup at your space, right? So like the amount of economic impact is staggering. And to the point of these other people that you're recruiting on board here, that is in the vested interests of lots of other people in your community, right? I mean, it's in everyone's interest that the economy of your community be better, but it's in the direct interest of certain people. The, you know, local bank owner, the local credit union, right? Like, what's a bank do? It holds the money for people who are doing business in that area. If there are more people doing more business, then the bank has more accounts. So the local bankers should be excited about what you're doing. IT support services, legal support services, bookkeeping, design, branding, marketing, any agencies, any companies like that that deal with small business should be excited at the idea of being associated with you, since you're going to be this incredible portal to people creating small businesses right at the very beginning. Venture capital, financing of all kinds. So that getting that story in your head, and figuring out how to tell that story in a way that really orients, not to say that like, oh, I'm Jen, I'm awesome, I'm going to build this amazing thing. Although inside, I hope that's what you're feeling. But outside, to be able to say, look, there's all this impact that's going to be created as a result of this project, and that could really be helpful to you and your goals. So let's talk about how to align that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. So I would say in terms of the timeline and all of that, I would worry less about that, just because we can't worry about things we don't have total control over, and more about building momentum. You've got the personal contacts we just talked about, but eventually what I would love is if you built a rhythm of gathering of the people who are involved in this project in various ways, where, okay, the place is under construction, but once a week you're co-working somewhere nearby, or once a month you're having a happy hour and brainstorm session where everybody gets together and they have wine and you present them with things to give you feedback on as you go through the construction process. The more people are involved in the design, the construction, the headaches even, the more they're going to be invested in the project's success. And so you can be doing that now, even before you have a formal pre-launch membership campaign. I mean, imagine how good the pre-launch membership campaign would be if, when you launch it with having incorporated the feedback of a couple of dozen people who are interested in it, right? What you don't want to do is launch a thing and cross your fingers and hope somebody shows up. You launch a thing knowing that you've got 10 people who told you the day before that they're totally ready to pull the trigger and help amplify it. So I would say, what kind of thoughts do you have as far as that, like the rhythm building and the regular gathering and things like that?
I have a group that I can definitely go to. It's kind of like my hive mind, and that's who I'm thinking I will definitely go to first for this early membership campaign, and then reaching out to some local businesses and just seeing if they'll give us a deal for meeting there occasionally. Join my performers now. That might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, the more you can get people talking to each other, the better too. A really cool thing.
Yeah, I have a Facebook group of about 120 people that are interested in Day House, and it's pretty great when they talk to.
When was the last time you got those folks together in the same physical space?
I think it was like early. I think it was probably just before Juicy, so like mid-April.
Yeah. So I mean, now you have a space, right? Since then, you got the lease and everything. So,
yeah.
Let's, perfect excuse to say, hey, everybody, we got a lease. I got some floor plans. I'd love to show them to you. I'd love to talk about our plans for how we're going to make this successful, and make it minimum work for you, but pick a date and a location that feels good for you to gather some folks, and then like post to the group, but then personally recruit the people that you really want to be there.
Right.
Because I found, one post to a group of 120 people will get, 5 people, and then 5 messages to 5 people will get 5 more people. Something like that. I'm making up numbers, but you get the idea.
Okay.
Anyway, cool. So what's this? Are we good, Jen? Do you want to kind of keep diving into this, or you got follow-up questions?
I don't want to monopolize time if anyone else has anything they say.
Cool. So
I
what's this?
speed.
What's this? Thank you. What's this stirring up for everybody in terms of your own situations? I know everybody here is actually in a different situation from everybody else, but nevertheless, I will say this is my segue that everything I'm describing to Jen is cyclical. So even when you're operating a space, part of what keeps a space engaging and interesting after it's opened is if you're continuously renewing the relationship between the member and the space as if you were opening anew. And maybe it's just that you're launching a new program, or maybe it's that you're cycling a program that happens seasonally, but keeping people involved and engaged in the constant evolution of your project is necessary to avoid the malaise and the rut that tends to happen if you don't. So that's kind of my attempt at a segue. So how's this landing for you guys? What kinds of thoughts are you having?
Quick question on so you mentioned the 6 months or 12 months if they prepay, giving a discount, and that's something that we are going to start trying to do. The piece that we have been kind of going back and forth about is what happens if someone leaves before then. Do you just say no refunds on that? Do you kind of give it a time frame where if, you give us this much time, you have half back? Or in your experience, how has that worked?
Yeah, I've never had somebody who prepaid ask for their prepayment back. I mean, I think that's kind of the point is you're prepaying, the money's ours now. It's, okay. It's been purchased. But I would say that if you got into a situation like that, where somebody prepaid and then for some reason they decided to leave early and they said to you, hey, we want to talk about the outstanding balance, I think you'd have to sit down and talk with them about it and try to find an amicable way to sort it. I've tended to be way on the softer side of just giving people their money back. In part just because it's a belief system. I don't want to take people's money for services I don't render. But at the same time, part of the point of a prepayment is that they're doing it to support you and to help you get your doors open with the expectation that, hey, this money's going to be spent. You gave it to me in June and now it's September. I spent it in June, because I used it to finance the building of the space. So, it's part of the deal and you got a discount on it. So what you might be able to do is say, hey, look, I can hold on to this as credit for you. You can gift this to somebody else. There's lots of ways that we can still work to provide this value to you. We can try to resell it to someone. Maybe that sounds like a little hokey, but we should be able to find a way to work it out. But I don't like being totally cold with those kinds of things. I like trying to sit down and communicate and find a middle ground. But I wouldn't let fear of that cause me to hesitate in offering it, just because I don't think it's going to be an issue. Normally, the bigger concern with the prepayment is that you end up, that it doesn't work in the business model, that if you sell prepaid memberships, then you have people paying below the rate that you determine in your business model you need. But that's really just a matter of, how quickly you're able to get to capacity. And if you expect you're going to get to capacity right away, then you can be less generous with offering discounts. But if with reasonable certainty you are going to have lots of extra space for a while, then you can be super generous with discounts. So it's kind of a gut call.
One of the other options is if you are in fact going to have to give a refund and they had that discount for the prepay, to do the refund at the standard rate. So sort of a win-win, I guess. I don't know. Kind of that middle ground that can make them happy.
Fair. Oh, I see what you're saying, Glenn. refund it as if they had been paying the standard rate up to that point. Like they lose the benefit of the prepayment.
Exactly.
Yeah. There you go. See, there's all kinds of middle grounds. So, Christy, I want to make a little room for you to have the floor since you're new to the group, and I know that you're just getting started. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about? I know we just spoke the other day, but you want to tell us a little bit more about kind of what your latest thinking is, how all this is bouncing off of you, questions about next steps?
Sure. We had a great conversation Thursday, and so I did do my homework. I've got my notebook. I've got some individuals that I will touch base with ASAP and try to get that community built. I was explaining to Tony that once this idea was started to develop, it very quickly gained momentum, and one thing led to another, and the space was available, and I needed to take advantage of the opportunity. So we kind of we didn't get as much opportunity to build our community as I should have and as I had wanted to. However, that's what we're working on now, and having success. And I like what you talked about with communicating to the local businesses how this is going to benefit and impact them. And so I've been doing that as well. And as I explained to you, Tony, some of them catch that vision without me having to explain. Some of them catch the vision when I explain. And so it's all very exciting. So at this point, that's what I'm doing, is connecting with individuals who do work from home and attempting to gather them at a specific date and time in the space to do some co-working. Also haven't yet connected, but intend to connect with some events that some meetup groups that I've uncovered, and try to become part of what they're doing, because I've been invited to, and then to try to communicate the benefits of the space and what WorkSmart has to offer.
Nice. Love it. This is all exactly what you should be doing. So I'm excited for you.
Yeah, I really needed that. My daughter is, she's getting ready to be a junior in the fall, and she got this big 2 or 3 page list of what she needs to start doing now to start preparing for college. And she just took one look at it and said, I don't even know where to start, and I think sometimes we're like that. It's like there's so much to do, and I think of, I've got to sit down and work on the website, and I just got a little text from Google My Business, and I've got to go put up some pictures or something fresh, and I forgot to add my hours on this place. I got to do. But a friend helped me sit down and, okay, this is where we start. And then the conversation with you gave me some very simple, effective things that I could do for homework. And so I did that, and all of that stuff was in my head. It was just a matter of pulling it out, getting it on paper, and okay, here's the plan now. These are the people I need to connect with. These are the people that I know that work from home or starting their business. So I just needed that little,
boost.
Incentive. Yeah. To get going, to kind of to break it down. How do you eat an elephant? So.
Awesome. Very exciting. So what I love is that because we have a mix of folks on the call, I'm feeling called to see, because I feel like I miss a lot of things sometimes just because I do this a lot. But I'm wondering, Glenn, and oh, hey, Melanie. Look at you just sneaking in at the end of the call. Long time no see. Oh, goodness. Okay, we're going to catch up with you in a minute. But what I was going to say was for Christy, because we've got Glenn on the call, who's an awesome super veteran. We've got Jaudia, who's also a veteran. I'm wondering what you guys would, like, what kinds of tips you would recommend to someone who's just getting started, who like just opened her space and is just kind of in the beginning phase of this. What do you guys, and I'm going to step away for just a quick second, but Glenn, do you have any quick advice that you'd want to share, or Jadia?
Oh, sure. Yeah, advice is easy. One of the things I found out is that no matter how much you think you've done advertising, how much marketing you've done, and you figure, oh, everybody's got to know we exist, not even close. There's that old marketing adage that you've got to tell somebody 8 times before they actually hear what you're saying. Yeah, that is so true. We've found out that 2-3 years in, we're still seeing people that will show up and say, oh, I didn't know about you. I just discovered you today. So definitely keep doing things to get your name out there, keep the conversation going, because there are just thousands and thousands of people you haven't reached, even though you think you may have.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, we would totally agree with this. So this is my partner, Eddie.
Hi.
I'm operations, he's communications. And so Launch House has been around for 10 years, but just in the last, I would say like 2-3 years, things have actually like turned us from what we would call a startup like into a growing business. And so I would definitely mirror what Glenn is saying, like just keep getting your name out there. Like I think events are so important. I might be biased, but events
No,
are so
are
important to just, you know, stay engaged within the community and get yourself out there, because even as we're expanding to other locations, like it's just been important for us to do that community building and just being like a staple, I would say, like in the community that we're working with. So absolutely keep doing that. And it's kind of, this is going to be a weird connection, but it's kind of like, you know, when you're dating someone and then you marry them and you forget that you still have to date them. It's kind of like that with our members, you know, our seasoned members. We still have to do things to keep it fresh and to make sure that they feel engaged and connected. So definitely keep that up.
And then for like, you know, if you don't have a lot of money for advertising, local press and bloggers are all really good sources to cover your space. They're always looking for stories. They're always looking for new things going on, especially co-working right now. It's a pretty hot trend, even in the Midwest. I'm not sure where your space is, but we've had no problem reaching out to people, not even in the major publications, but some of the more smaller ones, and getting stories on us. It's been pretty easy to do. And then bloggers always looking for places to tour and talk about. So those are 2 easy options that don't cost any money at all.
I meant to say that when Jen was talking about influencers, because I've definitely seen spaces here in Cleveland do that, inviting bloggers into their space in exchange for a blog post. So I think that that's definitely great, Jen, if you can engage your blogosphere that you had created back then. I think that that's really important. And that's it.
Awesome tips, guys. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Got some co-working coaches in the making here, I think. So, and I'll just add, you know, on the education side, Christy, one of the things that is really valuable to do when you're getting started is to recognize where your town is at in terms of its level of education. And you're the first co-working space in Glens Falls, right?
Yes, we are.
Yay, very cool.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, so you're in that kind of early phase where most people don't even know what this is at all,
Right.
you know, so you're starting from zero. And most people aren't gonna get to the point where they could really be your customers for a while, you know? So just to give you a sense of it, right, like there are people who are in co-working spaces in New York City right now who just could never have been in co-working spaces 10 years ago when I was getting started in New York, right? They're there now, but if I tried to get them there in 2008, they wouldn't have gotten it. Like it wouldn't have worked for them. It wouldn't have made sense. But we needed years of building up and developing capacity and education and all these other things to get to the point where these people could now be members of co-working spaces. So one of the things that I want to impart upon you, and really we all have to keep this in mind, is just when you're talking to someone, get it in your head of like, where on the curve is this person? And if, you know, right now, the only people who are going to be your customers are just these people. And most of the people you talk to are going to be somewhere over here on the bell curve. And so they might be useful to you. They might be like, cheerleaders of the idea, or they might think that it's really neat, or maybe they're a service provider or something like that, but they're not going to be your customers right now. Maybe they will be 5 years from now, but they're not going to be your customers today. So don't try to push a boulder up a mountain, I guess is what I'm saying. The people over here, they're going to get it quickly, and they're going to be excited, and they're going to want to help, right? And they're like, those people you're going to get a vibe for really quickly. So be a little conservative with your energy when it comes to figuring out how to reach those people. Doing what everybody else is saying here is important to build this general awareness that, like, maybe somebody in this bell curve knows about what you're doing, and they tell somebody they know who is a reachable potential customer, which is good. But we just, want to focus your energy on actually trying to convert those people up front. And the beauty is that in this early stage, you don't have an enormous space. You're not trying to get 200 people in the door on day one. So you don't need a bazillion people to make this work. You really only need a small number. When you identify who those small number candidates are at that front of the curve, they self-identify very quickly, and you get a vibe for it. And those are the people, you can put disproportionately large amount of energy into those people when you get the vibe, right? Like, go out to lunch with them, spend real time getting to know who they are, that kind of thing. I'd rather you have deep relationships with 10 people than business card flinging to 200 people.
Right. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Did you like the business card flinging imagery?
That was a great, because some people are really like that. And like, you can definitely tell when you go to like network with other spaces, or you go to their events, or
when they come to our events.
Like, there's just such a big difference between building and like cultivating those relationships and just wanting to get like people and bodies into your space. And I think that it really speaks to, Christy, what you're trying to build. The community is built on those. We had a core, like, really great group of people here at this space, but we're trying to do that same thing in our next space, because like, co-working is so much more than the space. It really is that community that you were talking about, and just networking with everyone and trying to get everyone in the space is not going to build that strong culture that you want.
Right.
Now, I will say, just to contradict myself a little bit, I don't think it's a bad thing to put that business card in the hands of everyone you meet, or a flyer or whatever, just to start getting the education out there and getting people talking, that general awareness. I can't tell you how many members joined my space where, we say, like, how'd you join? It's like, well, my friend attended an event here, 2 years ago, or like, my friend met you at a completely different event years ago, and it wasn't somebody who was a potential customer to me, but I still got them interested in the general big picture concept of what was happening. And truth be told, we're all invested in the prosperity of our region, so we do all have some common ground for it. It's just a matter of how you approach it. So before we call it a day, I would love to call upon a special guest who I've not seen in a long time, who I must say is just beaming with smiles, and I feel like has maybe some good news to share. Yeah, I see it, Melanie. I see it in your face. We'll find it. Melanie, can you introduce yourself, since you don't know everybody here? Everybody here doesn't know you, and just tell us how you doing? What's going on? Hi, welcome back.
It's good to be here. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. So I'm Melanie Benaya, and I just opened up my co-working space at the beginning of April this year.
Woo!
I know, I'm so excited. Took the big leap, took the risk. So I'm happy because I'm here and I have members, and the things are growing, and I'm really glad to hear what everybody here had to say, the veterans in this group, because I'm learning that it takes a lot of work to stay in front of people. But I'm so excited about this space, and people are using it, and we have 28 members now. Yeah. So slowly but surely, people are finding out, and we're starting to have events in the space and just keep plugging along. I don't know what else to say other than it's really good to see your faces. If you teach with other co-working space owners, it gets a little lonely here.
Well, congrats, Melanie, and welcome. I'm glad you can join us here and share some of this. We've been working together for some time, so it's really, really exciting to see you in your space with real members who are actually there paying you and showing up every day. That's amazing.
It is. It's really fun. And I'm so glad that we did it. It's been a fun journey, and it's scary, and it's and it's fun, and I'm glad to be part of this community and this movement, this co-working movement. It's very cool.
So what
Melanie,
kinds? Yeah. Oh, Jen, go for it.
I was gonna say, Melanie, how close are you to Phoenix?
We're about an hour and a half drive. It's a pretty easy drive, but about an hour and a half.
I'm going to be there for a conference in late July.
Come on up!
If I have time, that's we're talking half a day then. I'll see if I can make it work.
That would be great. That would be great.
Melanie, what kinds of impressions do you have at this beautiful kind of early period of, pre-launch, launch day, post-launch? What are some lessons you learned or some things that stuck out for you about the experience that were maybe a little unexpected?
Okay. Well, I think one of the things that I was expecting to be different was having more support from the business development centers in our community, because I'd gone to them and expecting a little bit more, something different, and I realized that it wasn't until after I opened the space that all of a sudden they were showing up at the door, showing up to my events and stuff and going, hey, now we can help you out. And I had to have a little bit of an attitude adjustment around that, because at first I was like, well, now you show up and now you want to be part of this. And I realized that they really do want to see this succeed for the community. And some of the things that they're coming up with are pretty cool ways to get the exposure out for this. So I'm
such as.
There's a new magazine that the city of Prescott is putting out. It's no longer just online. It's going to be in print, so it's going to be pretty nice and fancy. And they're going to do a feature on 2 of our members here that are developing a new app, and they're young, and for this community, that's pretty amazing, because this is a retirement community, and these are 2 25-year-olds who went after a grant. They asked our members to help them prepare to pitch investors, and a bunch of people showed up, and we helped them, with their pitch. They went and they came back with $4,000 and were asked to come back to the next round and to continue with their app. So they're going to do a whole feature on them and their connection with WingSpace. So
awesome.
That's pretty cool. And there's a few other things that we're definitely getting a lot of media attention, just like this 2 people we're talking about. It's pretty easy to get media attention here. So that's good. And I needed to shift my attitude. I was a little ticked off at first that no one was just like, awesome, we need this in the community. There was more like, oh, good luck with that. Great concept.
Yeah.
Go and do your thing.
I'm glad that you brought it up, because it's not something we really talk about in the group much, but disappointment is kind of comes with the territory with this. And I don't know to what extent this varies from one community to the next, but I've found at every stage of the process, I've been let down by a lot of people, like friends, by other businesses, like just so many people where, they just don't show up when they said they would, when they promised they would, right? And all these things. And I think it requires a fair bit of fortitude to not let that get you down about what you're doing. And recognize that, you know, to a large extent, people are just busy with their own stuff and distracted. And, you know, for the most part, I don't think people are, you know, malicious about it. You know, and that this project is probably more important to you than it is to anybody else. And so, you know, it's huge for you. And, you know, I mean, it's huge for me. Like, I care about co-working as much as anyone on the planet. So when someone's opening a new co-working space, it's like someone saved the world. But to a lot of other people, like, they don't get it, right? They don't know, they don't understand yet. So making room to allow for that, and even expect, like, prepare for that, you know, just because 20 people said they were going to sign up on day one, don't be surprised if you get 5, right? Like, you know, it's just the way that it's going to be. But the people who you do get, we can be grateful for, and we can embrace and cherish and have a lot of fun with. And it all works out as long as you focus on that. Just like in life, right? Like, being grateful for what you get. One of the things that I didn't get to say to you yet, Christy, that is an important thing just for us to have as a reminder, and I'll close with this, is being awesome really, really gets you far. So whatever that means for you, if you have a personal interest or personal inclination, something that really helps you to come alive, or just the willingness to really put your heart and soul into making something feel special, and to eliciting that specialness out of other people. We're a starved culture for those kinds of special moments and connections. And so when we see it happening, we recognize it, and when we value it. And so that could be as simple as somebody saying, you know, that they are in a band and the band is rehearsing and hang out, and you say, hey, would you like, you know, would your band like to come and play our grand opening party? You know, and be like, what, really? You know, like, yeah, come play our like, play 3 or 4 songs and, you know, come to our grand opening party. And you can do this, Christy, because you haven't had a grand opening party yet, right?
Right.
And I say, yeah, sure, great. Now that person brings their friends, right? And everyone comes out, and, like, when was the last time, you know, everybody in your community went and saw a local band play a live music performance and ate food produced by somebody's mom who's a, you know, amateur whatever, right? And so, like, all these things can really add up to special, memorable, unforgettable moments. And those are the moments that I really remember. And those are the moments that made my space, which was underfunded and filled with secondhand furniture and kind of messy, able to compete with really well-funded titans in New York City for a good long run. So for what it's worth, making those moments special is can't go wrong.
Absolutely.
Good for you, for your soul too. Buys you some energy, which gives you some time as well. Okay, I got misty-eyed. Thank you guys for the wonderful meeting. We will do it again next Monday, July 2nd. Crazy town. I know it's a holiday week, so I don't know how many folks are going to join, but would love to have you along. Welcome, Christy. Welcome back, Melanie. And great chatting with you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.